morning, this is the Bixler Saddle, and I'm going to break here to talk a recent anime.
Drrrops.
Drrrops is a high-energy, fast-paced action story of modern Tokyo street life with some supernatural elements thrown in for fun. The 2010 TV anime is 24 episodes of often chaotic storytelling style. It has a huge cast, and especially early on, it makes use of the whole ensemble, so it runs through the names and faces of the top 20 characters for us during the opening credits. One of those characters didn't have a name attached, by the way, and there's a reason for that, though you'll have to watch the show to find out what it is. Mikado arrives uncertainly in Tokyo from the countryside to attend high school with his old friend Kido, who's more extroverted and has lived in the neighborhood for some time. Kido explains the way things are around here, and things around here are pretty weird. There's a slasher killing people, apparently at random. There's a manipulative information broker who's definitely not to be crossed. There's a freakishly super strong man with a very short temper who's also best avoided. And there's a mysterious rider of a silent black motorcycle who, legend says, is headless. There's a Russian sushi restaurant. Rumors also claim there's a secret street gang called the Dollars that doesn't wear any colors, and so no one knows who's in it or what they do. All that, plus stalkers, gang warfare, a missing girl, and a few other surprises keep this show very busy, especially in the early going. Mikado and Kido soon befriend Sonohara, a shy and relatively friendless classmate, and they become a triangle that mostly observes or hears about the early events of the story. The trio becomes a more active story participant later in the story. The first half of the show has the most energy and fastest pace. Each episode has several parallel stories going on, with new characters who we'd simply seen in passing in previous episodes stepping to center stage for a while and then stepping back into the chorus again. Episodes often have a narrator, different each time depending on which character is featured, and that can give the show a noir feeling. The early going also has a self-aware sense of humor, able to poke fun at its own anime tropes. The mix can often be a lot of fun.
お前本当に運がいいぞ。おまけに都市伝説を目の前で見られんだから。キラ君、都市伝説って何？黒バイクだよ。首なしライダーだよ。僕はその時、自分の体が震えているのに気づいた。多分、感動していたのだ。
The first half of the show seemed to grab most of these characters and their storylines and tie them all up very nicely around episode 12. It seemed such a firm conclusion that the show could almost have ended right there. Well, I did forget one open plotline from the first half. The second half of the series changes focus and storytelling style a bit. The frantic pace slows down, the plot becomes more linear, and it concentrates on fewer characters. One of the unresolved stories introduced earlier in the show concerned that slasher I mentioned, the serial killer who was spoken of a few times and was actually seen in one episode attacking one of the characters. In the second half of the series, it dealt with that, and also with a neighborhood gang war. Drrrops delights in doing the unexpected with its characters. For example, Celty, that mysterious bike rider, gets largely demystified in episode 4. Plug your ears a moment if you don't want me to spoil that. Celty is a Dullahan, a headless knight out of ancient Irish fairy lore, a harbinger of death. A Dullahan normally carries its head around with it, but Celty's head was stolen, and she's tracked it to Japan, which is why she's here. It's really weird to introduce such a mysterious, powerful, supernatural being from folklore and then immediately reduce her to an almost ordinary woman who just happens not to have a head. She uses her powers to do odd jobs and communicates via text message because, of course, she has no mouth. She even gets a shower scene. Izuya, the neighborhood's powerful information broker, keeps an odd game board in his office with pieces from chess, go, and shogi. The meaning of that triptych will become clear late in the series. By the time the story concluded, I felt there was perhaps one too many characters with a big, hidden, far-fetched secret to be revealed, and I thought the last 6 episodes were overly drawn out. At the pace of the first half of the show, the story could have been tied up much more quickly, and it suffered by comparison. Which is not to say that the second half wasn't exciting in its its own way, it just wasn't as much high-energy fun as the first half.
彼そのものが暴力。そんな男。
お疲れ。
Drrrops from the same creative team as 2007's Baccano. The original novel is again by Ryogo Norita. It's directed in its disjointed style again by Takahiro Omori. He hasn't used the same extreme camera angles and disregard for the stage line as he did with Baccano. Instead, he likes to keep us off balance this time by cutting to new dialogue before he cuts the camera, having us listen to new voices over the tail end of the previous scene before cutting to show us the new scene itself. Head writer Noboru Takagi somehow manages to pull all these fragments together. Unlike Baccano, at least Drrrops doesn't ask us to follow stories in different cities in different centuries. Everything takes place in a small Tokyo neighborhood, and except for 2 flashbacks, it's all on the present day. To keep us disoriented this time, he likes to leave small gaps in the story, suggesting what we would imagine happened in between, only to fill in the details a little later on, often with an unexpected twist. To further muddle our brains, some of the exposition occurs on an internet text message board where everyone uses handles. Gradually, one at a time, the show reveals which online aliases belong to which of the show's characters. Why doesn't everyone on the internet just use their real names? Oh, and Baccano's weird couple of Miria and Isaac have small cameo appearances in episode 12. Why not? After all, when we left them back in the 1930s, they were immortals. One of the problems with a series that has so many characters and concentrates on so many storylines is it's hard to become really invested in any one particular character. It spreads out its interest, and so it doesn't attach us so well to any one character. The second half narrows the focus a little bit and tries to draw us into a couple of the characters, but then it holds us at arm's length again because those characters' problems are all self-inflicted by their own sense of secrecy and refusing to share information. The animation is again by Brains Base, with character designs looking mildly cartoonish, but the faces are expressive, except for Selthie, of course, and the urban backgrounds are solid. Drrrops' opening music is fast-paced and upbeat. The usual reminder of what happened in the previous episode is actually incorporated into the opening sequence, in addition to cataloging all the major characters for us. The interior soundtrack has a few original pieces, but most of it is classical in origin, from Beethoven piano works to piano instrumentation of Madame Butterfly's famous aria. To sum up, Drrrops' first half is a lot of high-energy fun, while the second half slows down into more conventional storytelling. None of it ever gets us really involved in any one of the characters. I thought the whole thing was really worth watching, and I give it 4 stars, a little more for the first dozen episodes than for the second half. Drrrops is currently streaming with English subtitles on Crunchyroll.
Thanks for watching.